everything works up until a point. So just knowing when and where to apply it, I think that's the key.
Let's hit on the other aspect of what you're doing there with rehab. So talk through your rehab philosophy, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think primarily rehab is managed by our physiotherapists, but my role is to help recondition athletes so that when they return to play, they're fit, fast, and ready to hit the ground running. So um, I'm guided by those guys. They let me know what the constraints are in terms of what sort of things the player can or can't do, and then within the boundaries that are set, I just try and like push them as hard as we can. Um, Try and use it as an
Sounds a
opportunity.
lot like me. It's like, oh, I can do like here's the line. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be like, how?
Yeah, and look, ultimately, you flirt with it sometimes, and you don't always get it right. I've made mistakes doing it, but like if I've got, for example, I've had a couple of guys who had hamstring tendon injuries that were long rehabs, but like one of them was a developmental player, sort of 19, 20 years old. Here's a good opportunity to put some lean muscle mass on this athlete. We got a couple of months here. Like, let's go to work in the gym. Let's get an extra gym session, extra 2 gym sessions a week in. We can also work on building your aerobic capacity. Like, let's get you on the watt bike. Let's do some intervals. Let's do some long intervals. Let's do some capacity work. Like, this is stuff that you're never really going to get an opportunity to do when you're in with the full squad and training normally. Let's go and work on something that, yeah, maybe it's not the most specific thing, but if we can lay a base of aerobic capacity there, like, you're going to retain some of those qualities throughout the rest of your career. So it's about trying to look for opportunities in a rehab and identifying things that you can work on that are going to help them as a player. It's not just randomly doing whatever. It's all got to feed in towards their performance goals. But yeah, looking for things that you can work on that are going to make them a better player. That when they come back, they can hit the ground running and like we don't want them taking 2 or 3 weeks to get up to speed. Like we need them ready to perform on day one. So yeah, do as much as we can, I suppose.
How do you keep your plan B as close to plan A as possible for any of our listeners out there that are like, all right, I like what he's saying. He's smart. Give him some kind of practical tips.
Expand on that a little bit for me in terms of the plan B is close to plan A.
Yeah, like, plan A is the squad's supposed to hit some sprint work, and somebody has a lower extremity injury. Let's say one of them's severe, one of them's not that severe. How would you have their plan B? So the supplemental training that you're doing with them, what would it look like for somebody who's out long term and somebody who you're trying to return to the pitch in a week or two?
Yeah, so I'll generally try and identify like, right, what tissue is undamaged that we can overload that ties into what everyone else is doing. So take a hamstring strain injury, for example, foot, calf, ankle complex. There's nothing wrong with that. We can do some plyometrics. We can do some jumps. Everyone's doing speed. They're getting high ground reaction forces, ground contacts. Let's do that. Let's go do some dribbles. Let's go get some contacts in our foot and our calf and our ankle. Let's work on some lateral capacity. So we might be doing some speed into agility. We've got some footwork going on. Like most guys can lateral shuffle pretty well with a hamstring strain. Like you can do that pretty much day one. So we can be doing some lateral shuffle work. We can be doing 2 out, 1 backs on a lateral shuffle. So 2 shuffles out, 1 back. We can introduce a perturbation. They can be punching an aqua bag on the cut as they change direction on their lateral shuffles. Like you can get some pretty high intensity work done, despite the injury, just by identifying what tissues aren't damaged and therefore which tissues you can target with development. With an athlete who's less injured, I suppose, say we've got someone who's presented with like some neural hamstring symptoms, some tightness, everyone's doing speed work. Not the day for them to go and do it, obviously, based on how they've presented. But let's try and obviously do what we can do with them. So they can probably do drilling with the squad. They can do running mechanics. They can prep with the squad, keep them feeling involved as much as possible. And then we've got those subtle adjustments where most guys, we're looking for a 90 plus exposure from them. This particular athlete, they're going to go do some build up stride throughs just up to 70, 75%. Typically, if someone's got some neural hamstring symptoms, they're actually going to be pretty conscious of self-limiting themselves. They're probably not the ones you need to worry too much about trying to set a new PB because they're already aware of what's going on. Then we might constrain them with a broomstick, for example, or we might just do like a high knee cycle and just do some bleeds again. Do some reps there, build some capacity. Finish with a couple of short, hard 5-10 meter accels, and then if we still think that they're able to participate in full training, then we'll send them on their way and they can get into full training, and we'll workload manage them through a training session to make sure that if there's, say, a 4-minute block of some really open, fast football skills, we might take them out and they can go do some different conditioning that's a bit more controlled. But if there's some tighter skills that we think safe for them and appropriate for them, then they can go and get stuck into it and be a part of the skill session.
That's unbelievable. I want to ask you, you talked about having them, warm up, do the drilling, and be as much involved with the team. How important is that psychological aspect for an injured athlete? Because I know my opinion on it, but I want you to speak about it.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's individual. There are some athletes who it is really important for them, and there's other guys who probably don't care. In fact, they'd actually be happier going and doing like a rehab warm-up. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. I've got some guys who they're actually not injured, but they're old and sort of injury-prone, I guess, and we send them to go and do rehab warm-ups when they're fit. But they like it. They feel like they're getting looked after. On the flip side of that, yeah, if we've got most of our sort of younger athletes, like if they've got a bit of a niggle or a bit of an injury, if we can keep them involved without them feeling sort of ostracized from the group, that's really going to help their psychology and their mentality. It's going to make them feel a part of things, and it's a team sport, and being a part of the greater purpose and the greater being, that's like that belonging for them. So that really does matter. It's really important, and we try and celebrate and make a big point of when an athlete rejoins full squad training in a long-term rehab. So had an athlete with a biceps rupture injury. They come back in, their first just catch pass ball skills with the group, like big hoo-ha about it, really celebrate it. I mean, he's doing the drill with more intensity and effort than anyone else. They're all getting around him.
It's like, I'm
yeah, exactly.
Bad.
So
I'm healthy.
That's it. I'm a player. I'm a player again.
I never lost it.
Yeah, that stuff matters, and it makes them feel wanted and important. And a lot of them derive so much of their purpose through their sport, through their personality of being a sports person. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. In fact, it can be problematic at times in terms of as they get a bit older, it can be psychologically stressful for them. But yeah, like they want to be a player, so it definitely makes a difference.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.